Welcome to Artificial Insights, the podcast where we learn to build AI people need and use by interviewing product leaders who have launched AI products. I'm your host, Daniel Maneri, and today we have Mandip. And Mandip I met through an event that he ran at Techpreneurs and other community tech events here in Kitchener-Waterloo. And he's been a serial tech entrepreneur with experience in analytical skills, AI, ML, digital mobility, and team building. He currently works for Vite HR and Edge AI Solutions. In the past, he's also founded Hayflyer and iCan Infotech. Mandip is passionate about helping other entrepreneurs succeed through mentorship and networking. So, Mandip, the question everybody's going to want to know is, are you an AI?
AI, that's the new normal word we can consider as our new phenomenon, but I can consider it as it's a new phase of programming. So AI is just a new phase of the programming which we were using since decades and decades, but it's now more powerful with the automation of the data intelligence, and everything is on a fingertip with the things. So I can say that there's two types of the AI I always like imaging. The one is a realistic AI and the second is imaginary AI. So people are considering like AI will replace the jobs, AI will change the things. It will replace the definition of the job, but it will not replace humans at any cost or at any time, because humans are the one who is driving the AI and we are the one who is creating AI and using the AI. So we need to be very positive about the AI. That's my first advice to everyone. That's AI is the one kind of a software or a hardware or any tool which will help us to be more productive.
So would you say that you're not an AI?
Yes, I'm not an AI. I am human.
That's great, because I just saw this morning a post by Lattice, and they're an HR software. And they say you can now officially hire an AI through their platform, and they'll give you a record for that employee and other documents that are like legal documents for a human. What do you think about that?
Yes, so that's the interesting space in terms of the AI. So let's consider that with that context, I'm giving you more detailed interactions which we had with one of the biggest law firm from our hometown, Kitchener. One of my friend and a lawyer. To hire a lawyer is an expensive thing. But for your normal question and answer, sometimes you are not hiring the lawyer. You are just like, okay, I will try. If something will come up, I will go with a lawyer and a thing. So he created a chatbot. It will give you the basic Q&A and a things where you don't have to book the appointment with the lawyer. But if on a certain stage, you need to book the appointment, that will come up and then the human will be interacted. So the same space into the HR thing is happening. So the HR is doing the repeatedly work of like contract creations, those sort of things. So in our product also we implemented the same thing, and we put it, we use the AI as an API services from the ChatGPT. We created all those sort of the templates in our documents creations and things. That's making the HR's life much more easier. And on top of that, we created a one security or the advice, we can consider as an advisory layer of the AI. So whenever anybody is sharing the confidential information on the GPT, we were making sure they will not share the prompt contains some like private information, like, can you create an offer letter for me, for Daniel, for this position, for this salary, this, that. Instead of that, we are saying like, hey, create a generic one and then embed your information as a template part.
You have an advisory layer, you called it, and that would be something that gets run in front of the chatbot so that you don't leak personal information?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Now there's another challenge industry is facing. We need to educate and upskill our current talent, irrespective it's IT or non-IT or any person, to use the AI. And Communitech has been started a good initiatives called the Good AI thing. So all the company needs to take care of the AI as a policy and as an basic training of in onboarding or the regular process for them. So they will be very responsible by using the AI. So if you are answering any email by AI and you are putting that, hey, I received this email and can you respond that? That means you are leaking a very confidential information of your company on a public domain. So you need to create that advisory layer in the terms of where you need to provide the basic information of where to use AI and how to use AI.
What would you say is the most important thing to know when you're starting to use AI?
So if you are using any AI platform, you need to be careful on the front of like, hey, what's your company's guideline? What's the things you are using? So there's a two use cases I always explain to people who are using, and specifically non-tech people. That's a AI if you're using for your work stuff to being done, and there's a personal thing. So if you're doing any research on your personal basis, like for your upscaling part or anything is there, you can use irrespectively any platform with whatever you prefer. But whenever you are doing your work related stuff, so let's consider I met one of my friend, he is working for a pharmaceutical company. And they used to go a deep dive with the white papers and all those sort of the things on the specifically subject research and things. And their asset is the one which the drug they are building, and all those sort of the information they are having, very confidential information on the research side.
Intellectual property.
Yeah, intellectual property side. And as well as there are certain personal information of the patient record systems and those sort of the things. So when you are mentioning those confidential data information to a public domain, so people are considering, hey, I'm like interacting with a one AI, generative AI tool. So I am only the one who is using it with my own account. So that's the wrong perception people are having, because that LLM model is learning from your data sets and your thing. So you need to be careful. Does your company compliance with that part? Or there's a private AI available in the terms of, if you are using, let's consider Google Workspace, you can use Gemini from that part. Have you get the permission from your IT team to use Gemini, or you are using your personal Gemini and leaking your company's confidential information through that personal Gemini?
What would your advice be to executives who want to think about data privacy and still have their team use generative AI?
So the first and foremost thing I will suggest to them is like create a basic framework of what to do and what not to do, like what to say and what not to say. And if they can create that and they can share those policy to the people, like what information they can share and what they can't share on any platform, because we've seen like enough news about like highly confidential data has been shared. People got terminated after those things. So before reaching to that stage, first to work on the part of creating the basic guideline and things. And even you can use generative AI to create that. So that's a funny part of the AI. You can use AI to restrict the AI.
And have you had to make such a policy for one of the companies that you work for?
Yes. So there's two types of policies people always welcomes in a way. So you need to create a policy where you are showcasing like how you can reduce your workload with the AI. And in that policy, you can embed the things like, okay, you don't have to do that and you can do that. If you will do that, you can save your time, your energy, and you can focus on the thing. So it should be more productive training as compared to the compliance training. So with that sort of the approach, you will be able to create the positive vibes of the AI, and the like your team will not see like you are threatening them for using AI or things, but it will be more educational based things where you are providing the very minimalistic approach of like, hey, we are on a Google environment for our things and we are coming up with a Gemini in a next upcoming plan. Or you can disclose your future AI adoption strategy for that. So they will be aware like, okay, this will be coming from the company, or I'm not legally allowed to share the confidential data. The reason being why, this is the reason. So they will be aware like if something is happening, this is the reason behind that. So then I always advocate that things, because employee respect all the legal compliance because they are there to perform their best duties. And once you will give them the reason, they will be more than happy to follow those things for themselves.
And I like that angle too, where you said the focus was on helping people to be productive rather than on cutting them back from something that they would normally have done and hindering them. So tell them what they can do and explain to them why they can't share something.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, I wanted to ask you about the AI-powered products that you've launched. From former conversations that we've had, it sounds like there's been quite a few. You've had a number of smaller products as well as larger ones, I think. Which product has been the most commercially successful and why?
Yeah. So let me give you like different aspects of the things so you can get the sense of what. So we were playing around with the AIs, like I can say 2 to 3 years down the line, we started doing that. We failed miserably with a few products and things in the terms of results, in terms of the cost, in terms of the use case side. So from that, we learned things. And the most successful use cases I want to discuss is the first, we helped one of the claim processing side on the insurance side. So there were long delays and the long processing time where the human has been involved for the processing of the first layer of the claim. And that is mainly extracting the data from the PDF files and to make the certain decisions. And I will not say it's AI, but it's a workflow automation. But workflow automation with the proper data and the analytics part, which one is associated with that. So we started with that. Then we captured the certain, we were performing all those sort of the cloud AI services and the things. So instead of implementing the whole new AI for a company, we prefer to use the biggest company's AI models and use that for the use case and train it for their data set. So we did that. And then the core challenge which we were facing was the cost, because the market is ready to adopt the AI, but market is another way is not ready to spend more money over the AI thing. So the cost was a like center point for that. And the processing cost for claim was like super expensive. The reason being why we were running like a 3 AI services, AI as a service models from big cloud companies. And that was the creating like a good amount of cost, like $9 to $10 sort of the cost. And still it was like reducing 8 to 10 man hours of the processing that thing. And then we got some good news from like big players. They were working on the device AI side and they launched their ML libraries for that. And we implemented the edge AI sort of the data processing over the edge. And we filtered out and we created a filtered data JSON formats from the edge AI side, which has been done on some cloud side. So we reduced the efficiency issue. We improved the efficiency. We reduced the cost. We reduced the waiting time and those sort of the thing. And we created basic workflow automations with the AI powered data. And instead of human to read out all the PDFs and things, we created conclusion-based things and processed from their 20 years of the data sets and made the decisions like, okay, and then we inform the users, this decision and this result has been achieved or created by the AI algorithm. If you are happy, click next. We will move forward for the next step that the human has been involved. If you are not okay with the result and the data parameters, click here and the human will review as the traditional process. And out of 20 files, like 18 files have been agreed by the users. So that's a two-way communication we need to create by providing them the information. This is not the human. So to whomever I'm speaking, they are like, hey, in a customer service, whenever you are putting the AI, it's the like not AI, but chatbot. That's the one is a big headache. And I don't want to speak with the AI and anything. So like you need to create, like you need to communicate to the end customer and as well as business users that this is the AI or the machine driven decision, but you need the human. Still, there's a human angle is there.
Wow, you said a lot of things in there that I think we could dive into. And the first thing was you mentioned that it wasn't really AI. Why would you say that?
So there's a perception of the AI is the things like whenever anybody is thinking, it's like, hey, I want to create my own LLM. I want to create my own AI. So let's consider you and me are back like 20 years back when the email generation has been started and things. So we are using email services from Gmail, Yahoo, and Hotmail sort of the providers, or our hometown-based BlackBerry providers and those sort of the thing.
Yes.
But if you are saying that you are creating your own mailbox services, that's a different thing. So you are using the AI from any bigger providers or the very well-trained models. That's the one where you're using the AI. But when you are saying I'm creating the AI, that means, are you creating the LLM? Are you creating completely your own AI? That's a different story itself. And that requires tons of effort. That requires tons of money too. It's not like in a like $1,000 you can get your own AI and things. And it's a time-consuming things. Like people thinks like OpenAI has been launched and overnight it became successful. No, there's a tons of engineer powers and that tons of data sets required for the AI.
Yes. And I think OpenAI too says you can hire their team starting at $1 million to help build the AI on your own data. So it comes down to, in this case, you would say it was successful because you didn't have to spend the money and the time to build your own from scratch.
Exactly. And that's where there's a thin line is that like I am building AI or I'm using AI to build the bigger and better solutions. So you need to focus on the purpose of end result you want to achieve. Versus there's hundreds of open source AI models available. There's hundreds of libraries available that can be done like
so many.
So instead of saying that's like we are building AI, we are creating AI, instead of saying we are using the AI and building the solutions that can be driven by the AI. That makes more sense for my psychology.
So to use AI to build a solution.
Yes, exactly. And AI will make the decisions, but it's pre-built AI which we are using, not we are reinventing the wheel for like, let's try to train the model from a one line to second line to the third line and implement the like learning model from 1 to 100 instead of somebody has been created a model that already like having a 10,000 parameters in that order, 1 million parameters. So using that million parameters and make the decisions on the million parameters will give you a much more fine-tuned results as compared to starting your own model on things.
And one other thing you said that I thought was quite interesting was you said it cost $8 to $10 per claim analysis, I think, at first.
Yeah.
And even though that saved 8 hours of human time, was that something that your stakeholders were interested in, or was that still too expensive?
So there were like two sort of their mindset was that. So they implemented AI, they were happy to achieving the results in terms of the things. But when they seen the bigger terms of the metrics, like they rolled out for like 10 to 15 policies and things when they considered as 100,000 things. So it was coming as $1 million sort of the yearly cost. And they still need the humans. They cannot fire the humans because there's an angle of that, like I need human interactions and a thing. So we were reducing the human hours and the efforts. But you cannot say, okay, there's a 10 people, there's $100,000 salaries there. We are replacing them with this $1 million AI thing. So it was not happening. And it's not happening in any industry, technically. And there's another thing. Whenever we are replacing the humans, we are providing them the productive tools, but we need to make sure this 10 hours has been saved that can be utilized on the other productive work too. So if they are sitting idle for that time, that was a big sort of our side. We will not be able to justify the saving and the things on that side of the 8 to 10 hours because they will say like, how many users will say like, I need the human interaction. And if everybody is saying the same thing, then there's no point of implementing the technology, which will cost them a huge fortune. And then it's still human required. So that was the reason, like we focused on how we can reduce the cost on the first phase. So that can be rolled out in a smoothly manner and it can be scalable for the like managements and things to accept the things humans are there and the AI is as an add-on of that part.
The They weren't looking to cut headcount. They were just looking to make their workforce more efficient.
Yep, exactly. And that's the
I love that.
good message we received. And that's the thing which we want to pass the same message to everybody who is in a non-tech jobs there. So AI is not replacing you. AI is providing you the tool which can save your time and you can enjoy much more sunny days with your family.
And hopefully do less work that means nothing. And you don't have to read 100 documents every week just to say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I also really like that story of you had a new AI thing come out. What was it that saved you all of that processing and bandwidth? So you did it instead of in the cloud. What was that AI innovation?
Yeah, so it's AI over the edge. Currently, we are like processing majority whenever we are considering AI implemented something. So we are considering biggest thing is in cloud, like we will implement this, we will use this AI services, or we will use this cloud AI services. And that's the one where we seen like early stage failure of all the AI initiatives which we have started, because it was costing them like the one learning model which we started. We were doing good. The model was learning very well and things. And the minute we launched, we received $20,000 from the cloud providers in a 1-day bill. Ooh. The reason because it started learning from all the metrics. So it was in a travel sectors and in that industry, and that was learning each and every city's tourism sectors and those sort of the data, and the data parameters which we tested for one particular city, one particular behavior, and we replicated for the 10 behaviors. But when we launched the actual AI for the end users, it started digging dive into each and every city, each and every town, each and every behavior, and then it was like massive API calls was happening. So
you ended up having a big bill because you'd set it up geographically and your tests were smaller. And then in production, it was now suddenly maybe not the whole world, but many cities.
Yeah. And they immediately terminated the whole initiatives because they received like 20 grand in a 1 day. And this is not the tool which we want to use or implement in our company. In the same exchange, we were like, the more cost was coming as in when we were processing imaginary data, video data, audio data, or the data which requires the processing front on the media side. So that was the massive requirements, because the text processing is not that costlier as compared to this like image processing and all those other things. So we bifurcated that with the certain classification of it. So there's a certain good amount of libraries available that can be run over the edge. Nowadays, if you and me are considering in our pocket, we are like having a terabyte sort of the space devices with us. Micro cards are more capable than the hard disk which we are having in our computers. So this and another biggest worry from the enterprises side is the data privacy as well as the data protection side. That's the one which triggered us like, hey, something can be done on that space. And another one was the environmental damage. So on the name of the AI, we are like burning thousands of computer hours to process the data, which can be easily eliminated by the edge AI. We combined the libraries like TensorFlow Lite, Core ML by Apple. Then there's a different libraries that can perform the same results, can be done over the cloud as well as on the device. So we combined that and we created a certain use case based models, and you can consider as a framework. So that can be convert your image data to the audio in a device itself, and you will receive the JSON format and things. You don't have to rely on those sort of the processing over the cloud. So remote patient monitoring systems needs the video analysis. Sports training needs the video analysis on a lively mode. So if you want to go with those live video productions, live video analysis, that's the crazy amount of cost you need to involve in that case.
Yes.
In that case, if you are running your smaller models or the smaller algorithms with the predefined the process the data over the edge, and then on your bigger LLM, you are feeding with the presets of the data sets, then the cloud LLM will get like crisp data and provide you the proper result sort of the thing. So that's the things we ended up. And always a big fan of the open source. So we are putting this as an open source using the open source libraries. So we don't want to put it as a closed source or that's not making sense. So we are launching that as an open source community platform and we'll keep building on top of that.
Very neat. So it sounds like in more than one case, you've had big savings in terms of both cost and electricity when you put processing on the device and you either extract the information that you need on the device, like from the audio, or you filter it down and only send the parts you need.
Yep. And there's another good achievement. We did it for one of the enterprise on identity verification side. So whenever you are uploading any identity document to the cloud, you need to comply good amount of legal compliance you required on your cloud side, and they will cost you a good amount of money. So if you will process that with the OCR and with the library, which you can implement on device, and you can verify it, and then you directly processing the end result instead of the personal identity document, that will be like cost saving, your compliance saving, and it will give you a very precise results with that part. So that also we achieved. And then we realized, okay, data privacy and compliance is another challenge everybody is facing in the space when they are implementing the AI.
Yes. Yeah. So you even get around having to do something like HIPAA compliance because you can process the document on the phone and not even send sensitive information to your cloud.
So let's consider for one example, like you are onboarding a new employee or new customer for your bank, and you need to do their know your client and know your customer data processing. And that requires like 10 data sets, and you just need to perform those 10 data sets for that part, which can be performed on your devices. So you don't need to get those documents until those documents are verified and you got those data, whichever you required from that particular identity documents. You don't need to keep more identity for your server side. And after that, you need to destroy those identity on the verification and things. And
yes.
So let's consider you and me are using this, all the device side verification and identity processing since decades. And they are scanning our driving license and they're extracting the data. All those things can be performed over the edge. Why we have to worry about the cloud side? So that sort of the things can be achieved. And on top of that, they can put the model on side. So those models can perform the correlated works. So we can consider as their action items. So that model will go into their DMS systems, document management systems, and it will extract the data like, hey, this person already have a policy with us. So this is the number, this is the things, and that can be extracted and that can be easily linked with the things. And that, okay, this is the policy, this is the driving license, this is the claim, and everything has been tied up, processed on device. They are like making sure their claims and everything has been prepared. And then at the end of the day, it's like consolidated as in one complete claim, and that can be processed on the cloud.
So you're saying one other advantage of doing the processing on the edge or computer or phone or whatever is that you then have really easy data to match with other data you have. So if somebody just sends you a picture of a driver's license, it's a picture. You don't know how to match it. You need to extract it anyway. But if you get the extracted information, it's as fast as any other database or just any other information that is text.
Exactly. And like there's one more thing which I would like to add in the thing. So all this, that's why I'm saying like all these technologies were there since so many years. We were using it, but AI make it much more faster, easier, and accessible for all the interlinking things. So whenever you are adding more data and more powerful things for the AI, you are achieving more faster results. So on the AI side, we can use the current, all the frameworks, all the libraries, and interlink the existing the data which we are having since like decades. So one company, I can say like sitting on a like 2 to 3 terabytes data usually. So that's the minimum amount of the data people are having in their like normal sort of, if it's a law firm, they're having the previous cases. If it's any HR, they're having previous employees' data. They're having like one employee is having like at least I can consider as in 40 to 50 data parameters they have to kept it, and they can use those data to being more productive. So one example is the one we got, like the one request from the HR, like everybody is asking like what's covered in my benefits and what's not.
Yes.
Even if they have those benefits copies with them, but every time they will come back to HR and they will say like, hey, is it covered in my benefits plan? That can be extracted from that particular PDF, and that can be put it as just a normal TensorFlow Q&A model, and that can be answered from that Q&A. That can be achieved with a simple, like I can consider as a JavaScript code. You don't need to build the whole AI for that. But we are sitting on a big library of all the employees' benefits, and we can use that as a Q&A model, and we can achieve that.
That's a great point. I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential in what we can do with historical data. So would you have any advice for an executive who might wonder if they have untapped data? How would they find it?
Just open up your Drive or Google Drive or any sort of the folder storage system, and just see whenever you are performing the normal search and the normal data. Currently you will be able to see from your all those dashboards and the analytics stuff, which one is loading the data from the different data source. You can see yourselves like your company is having a great amount of data, and then you just need to figure it out which data has been unutilized or not provided the productive sort of the Q&A comes answering things. So or let me give you another cool interesting thing. So there's multiple overlaps of the systems like each and every company is using. So one of the biggest restaurant chain system, they were using the POS CRM system from one vendor, and another one from the inventory side and the forecasting on the vendor management and the quotation and those sort of the side. And they not match these two data parameters. And they were like, okay, like we are running some sort of the dashboard, then we are matching the things and forecasting of the inventory and understanding the user behavior. They tapped into those data sets. They just connected two systems, and with the help of the current AI connectors, I can say, it was super easy. There's a tons of SaaS products available, so you can connect multiple things into that one, and you can generate like good amount of in-depth analytics of your own data. And they were surprised, like each and every order which they are placing on the vendor side was linked with the customer behavior. So they got like cost saving things instead of revenue boostings, and they increased their cap tables with that part.
So I think those are two different examples, but related, where the first example was anytime you find yourself looking for information, you can probably automate something there.
Yeah.
The second one was if you have two separate sources of records or information like customers and vendors, you can probably get something by putting those two together.
Yeah, and the biggest advantage we are having in today's world, I remember when I started my first job as an SAP developer thing side sort of the thing. So we were so restricted to communicate with one system to another system. So we at that time we were not having the proper sort of the tools availability, and the market was not open. But currently each and every product or each and every service is coming with the open API. So you can use those things, you can put those data and use any ML library or any AI services which one is available in the market, and you can achieve whatever in let's consider you are thinking in the dream like, hey, how can I do that? So quickly you can put that question to your own data sets, And instead of ChatGPT, your data sets will respond you with the high performed data metrics. Like this is the metric which you need to focus and how you can do that. So specifically, like you will get all the answers without setting up your board meetings on a like quarterly mode.
So you can get answers faster than having to have board meetings all the time. Sounds like a good promise.
Yes, and in a board meetings, you will have a very concrete information from your data set to make the precise decisions. So you will not lose a 6 months of time by doing a trial and errors. Immediately you will get the results, and in the next board meetings, you will have very precise information for moving forward for that part.
And you mentioned being able to, I think, ask questions of your own data. Is there any particular AI that you would use to ask those questions?
That again, that will depends on their IT infra. Like you and me knows them very well, but TensorFlow Q&A is an open source model and can be deployed with any sort of the data source. There's a one example, but depends on their current ecosystem. So if they are having a more robust ecosystem, so they are tied up with a one cloud provider, everybody is having those AI services in place. They can use any AI services for that particular Q&A sort of or like data gathering things. And on top of that, they can add this their own ML or AI learning mechanism. So that's the biggest achievement they can do it. So from their previous question, their system is learning for the next question sort of the part, which we learned from Atif very well, like how we can create those Q&A more productive on a learning side. So they can implement that and they can go on a step-by-step process of like creating the best AI practicing. And another thing which I love in the terms of the current ecosystem, they don't have to go outside of their current provider and they can get it. They don't have to hire any they call it the external data vendors or the things. Their existing data, like you are using Google Workspace, plug and play Gemini, connect with the Google Analytics, connect with your Google Sheets, and start providing those Q&A with those data parameters, and you are good to analyze your website and your sales data together in a one single query.
Neat. That is a good point. All the major cloud providers and software providers have integrations with AI, and you don't need to go and find a separate vendor.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And I think maybe the last major topic I wanted to ask you was, what do you wish that you had known when you started building AI products? And what difference would that make?
That's a good question. I started building AI without knowing it's AI. So I was doing that for just like how this generative model works or this, because the AI is a more on, from my interaction side, I was not on a chat side sort of the AI. I was more on the image processing side. I was more on those sort of the things. When like I got inspired by Pranav Mistry when he showed his Samsung's Ultra identity things, whenever you are clicking a picture and you can remove the people from the background, and Google then adopted those sort of the things. So I got inspired with that, and I'm a big fan of specifically Iron Man sort of characters. So I was like, if we will interact with the data analytics dashboards, how that can be interacted with those sort of lively way. So that's how I got involved, and I was regretting the one thing which I was not aware about the AI is the things. It will go on a wronger directions if you will provide the wrong data or the wrong aspects of the part. So you need to be very careful for what sort of the data you are providing. And sometimes it will gives you the false results or the false commitments if you will like achieve that in a wrong way. So you need to be very careful how you are training your models, what models you are using, and what's the limitations and what's the advantage of those models.
I've heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out before. Can you give us an example of a time when you did get some kind of garbage result?
Yeah. So For one of the client, we were implementing the forecasting of their main requirements for the delivery systems and things. And we rely on their existing route mappings and those sort of the systems, like which one is the best routes and the optimized ways sort of the things. And we were relying on a live traffic data, and we tried to put all the fancy things so we can do it to provide the more accurate data sets. And by mistake, we put like the availability zones and those sort of the data from that. And then the mistake we made was we not checked the data was accurate or not. We just got the data, we connected the data, and data connector was working by themselves. And we saw like all the wrong results because the data was not filtered. The data which they added, their person was adding the same data into Excel. They were just copy pasting the data in a way. It was not the real time data. And the AI algorithm was thinking everything is precise, everything is working on time, and everything is top notch. And they created the delivery schedules based on that. And none of the delivery schedule has been matched. And none of the route was optimized for that part. Even it was like giving them the routes go 10 kilometers that side and then 20 kilometers that side. And it was like complete mess of AI. Like they were like, what sort of the AI you have built? And we were like, oh, sorry. And that was the biggest mistake we made, it like not to check the data quality. So I regret for implementing that.
That sounds like a hilarious learning experience, really.
Yeah, that is.
Okay, so if I had to summarize, I would say that you would do differently now. You would check the data before you tried to build AI on it.
Exactly.
So if you have time for one more question,
Sure.
I'm interested in hearing, what do you see as the future of AI?
That's the amazing one. I can see the future of AI with the next generation. It will be like they will not consider it as an AI. They will consider it as the normal tool. So like our parents, they were not aware about the computer powers and the things. You and me were aware, okay, computer can be used with this sort of the power. And the next generation is using AI much more precise way, like your younger one or my younger one is using AI better than us. And they knows how to interact with the AI. Like my younger one is using Google Speaker since he was like 3 or 4, and they knows how the things can be done with the AI. So I can see the like bright future of this technology. And the cool and the scary thing is that it's growing so fast, it's hard to cope up with that part.
Yes, actually, I agree with that. So it's bright. I don't know what it looks like, though.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. I made this podcast because I want to be the person at the city gate to talk to every person coming in and out, doing great things with AI, and find out what and why, and then share the learnings with everyone else. It would mean a lot if you could share the episode with someone that you think would like it. And if you know someone who would be a great person for me to talk to, let me know. Please reach out to me at Daniel Maneri on LinkedIn, or shoot an email to daniel@maneri.house, which is Daniel@MANARY.HAUS. Thanks for listening.